back to Sotomayor. Her dissenting opinion. She warned that the ruling handed down by this Supreme Court this morning, quote, will have disastrous consequences for the presidency and for our democracy. And it sends this message: let the president violate the law, let him exploit the trappings of his office for personal gain, let him use his official power for evil ends. And even if these nightmare scenarios never play out, and I pray they never do, the damage has been done. The relationship between the president and the people he serves has shifted irrevocably, and in every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law. End quote. In her own written dissent, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said that the majority's ruling, quote, breaks new and dangerous ground. She added this: departing from the traditional model of individual accountability, the court's majority has concocted something entirely different, and that is a presidential accountability model that creates immunity, an exemption from criminal law, applicable only to the most powerful official in our government. End quote. And she warned that under the majority, what she calls the new presidential accountability mode, quote, a president who admits to having ordered the assassinations of his political rivals or critics, or one who indisputably instigates an unsuccessful coup, has a fair shot at getting immunity. End quote. Well, okay. Joe Biden, get your ass in gear. Come on. Get your ass in gear, Joe. You're a fighting Irish type, working class. Come on, man. Somebody just called you out. What are you going to do? You're going to hem and haw around and fumble and try to find sentences? No, that's not what you do, Joe. You're the fucking president. You're above the law. The Supreme Court just handed you carte blanche to arrest every one of these bastards and put them away. And if you want to use it, you also have probable immunity to shoot some of them. And you definitely have immunity to add 7, 8, 30, 50 goddamn Supreme Court justices to the court tomorrow, this week. Do it. And don't worry about Mitch McConnell. Fuck Mitch McConnell. He's out of the loop now, according to the Supreme Court. You make this an official act through your Justice Department, and it's a done deal. Yeah, I seriously doubt if Joe Biden would come even within 1,000 billion miles of what I just suggested, because, you know, he plays by the rules. But the Supreme Court, Mr. President, has said the rules no longer apply to one individual in this country, and that is the President of the United States. Mr. Biden, that happens to be you. We only have one. You. Don't let this moment pass. The Supreme Court has given you permission to do what Eileen Cannon and the rest of these son of a bitches who would destroy this democracy are trying to do. Destroy this democracy. You now have permission from the highest court in the land to stop them. By any means, Mr. President, that you choose. Do you not get that? Any means you choose. And if you happen to overstep the immunity parameters that this Supreme Court has given you, well, we'll let district courts figure that out. And then it can go to appellate courts. And then it can go to the Supreme Court. Maybe 5-6 years from now, that shit will be worked out. But do it now, Mr. Biden. God damn it. Yeah, listen to me. Or don't. As far as the dissents from Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson, well, John Roberts, the very superior white man, Christian, Catholic Chief Justice, dismissed it. And in his dismissal, he suggested that his three liberal colleagues had misinterpreted the majority's opinion and were engaging in, quote, fear-mongering, end quote. What do you want us to believe, Mr. Chief Justice? You have seen Donald Trump. You have heard him. Unless you really do live in a fucking envelope where nothing gets to you. But you have heard this monster. You know what is planned. You know about Project 2025. You know about this stuff. So what do you mean fear-mongering, Mr. Chief Justice? Roberts said in his opinion that the dissenting minority, quote, they strike a tone of chilling doom that is wholly disproportionate to what the court actually does today. And like everyone else, the president is subject to prosecution in his unofficial capacity. Well, Chief Justice Roberts, you're full of shit as a Christmas goose. Like everyone else, the president is subject to prosecution in his unofficial capacity. What, Mr. Chief Justice, for example, just for the sake of, what would be Mike Malloy, what is my unofficial capacity? Because you say I'm like everyone else. Rather, what is my official capacity? I'm an official human being. I really am. I'm an official podcaster. I'm an official former employee of Air America. I am official as a motherfucker. I am so official. I used to work at CNN, Mr. Chief Justice. So what kind of rights do I have? I'm official. In my universe, Mr. Chief Justice, I am just as goddamn official as you are. I've got a birth certificate to prove it. I do. I have a passport. I have a driver's license. I am official, you ignorant bastard. So do I have the right that you have designated? You said, like everyone else, the president is subject to prosecution in his unofficial capacity. What is my official capacity? Now, I must have some. I'm an official person. Yeah, my birth certificate says it. I was a live birth. Mr. Chief Justice, I guess that makes me official. This is insanity. But it's where we are, folks. Indeed. And the Chief Justice also appeared to denigrate Sotomayor for what she included in her dissent. When he said that Sotomayor's, quote, most compelling piece of evidence consists of excerpted statements of Charles Pinckney from an 1800 Senate debate, end quote. What is he talking about? I guess that's inside baseball. Isn't that what they call it? I have no fucking idea what Charles Pinckney said when he was senator in 1800. What did he say? And then in his superior wisdom, Mr. Chief Justice continued. He said, quote, "But those statements reflect only the now discredited argument that any immunity not expressly mentioned in the Constitution must not exist." Well, any immunity not expressly mentioned in the Constitution must not exist. That is now a discredited argument. So I guess what that means in trying to parse what the Chief Justice is saying is that any immunity mentioned in the Constitution does exist. Where is immunity from prosecution mentioned in the Constitution? I guess since John Roberts is 8 trillion times smarter than I where it concerns constitutional law, I'm sure there must be a paragraph, a phrase, a sentence that lays out what a president is not immune from. I couldn't find it. Of course, I'm not a constitutional scholar. And then Amy Christian Barrett, Justice. She wrote in a concurring opinion with the majority that she agreed with some of the majority opinion, but not all of it. Justice Barrett is leaving herself a little wiggle room, you might say. And notably, she said she agreed with Sotomayor that Trump's immune conduct should still be allowed to be used as evidence in his trial. Oh, well, thank you, Justice Christian Barrett. Oh, she wrote this, quote, "The Constitution does not require blinding juries to the circumstances surrounding conduct for which presidents can be held liable," end quote. Well, Justice Amy Christian Barrett, your little half-assed dissent from the majority, keeping in mind that you signed on with the majority, you know what it means, Justice Barrett? It means not a goddamn thing. Nothing. What is that? Well, why did you put that in there? A sop to your former law students at Notre Dame? What? What does it mean? The Constitution does not require blinding juries to the circumstances surrounding conduct for which presidents can be held liable. Okay. But your majority opinion, you 6 Christian fascists, Justice Barrett, did just that. You blinded the whole fucking country to the circumstances surrounding conduct of this orange son of a bitch when he was president. But you're allowed to say shit like that, Justice Amy Christian Barrett, because after all, you're a Christian, you're a good Christian, and, you have the backing of Jesus H. Christ and Donald J. Trump, so, Big win for our Constitution and democracy. Proud to be an American, Trump crowed on his toy social media site. And then a campaign advisor to Biden said that the ruling doesn't change what happened on January 6, 2021. No, who the fuck said it did? Of course it didn't change anything. It just made it legal in the sense that the president now is immune from being held responsible. That makes his actions legal. Now, you might watch as case after case, conviction after conviction is overturned of these filthy, what are they called? Hostages being held in prison for their acts of treason. But the Biden campaign advisor said this, quote, Donald Trump snapped after he lost the 2020 election, encouraged a mob to overthrow the results of a free and fair election. Trump is already running for president as a convicted felon for the very same reason he sat idly by while the mob violently attacked the Capitol, which is he thinks he's above the law and is willing to do anything to gain and hold power for himself. Well, Mr. Unnamed Campaign Advisor, I think you ought to check this morning's headlines, because the Supreme Court ruled that Trump is above the law. I mean, okay, he's a convicted felon, but that had nothing to do with federal law or the Constitution. It had to do with the fact that Trump is a lying, filthy son of a bitch who respects nothing but himself. So the fact that a campaign advisor said, well, this doesn't change anything. Are you out of your fucking mind, campaign advisor? Are you one of the guys who decided that Biden should go out in the condition he was in and take on this lying, fire hose, bullshit lie, son of a bitch, Donald Trump? Probably so. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.